Before I leave for the next 4 years, I thought it would be good to take the time to look back on my series, Fight for Endworld, and its sequel, Hearts of Vengeance, and go over some questions I left unanswered, as well as reveal parts of its backstory and what inspired me to create it. I'm going to count down 5 interesting facts about my series, from things that aren't common knowledge to secrets I've never revealed up until now. Number 5. Zeri's origin. Despite being my self-mock and one of the most well-known characters in my series, Zeri's is a pretty confusing being, especially when it comes to his origins. The official backstory is that Zeri started as a Zeron's biological half-brother before being transformed into a demon by the Phantom Keithrani, while his half-brother became a living weapon capable of opening portals between dimensions and producing immense amounts of energy, abilities he couldn't control on his own. Zeri's possessed Zeron to try and increase his own powers, but this backfired and caused Zeri's to become stuck in Zeron's body, and becoming partially bent to Zeron's will, only managing to escape after his physical form was destroyed in his battle with Drazen. Yeah, I know, makes perfect sense. However, if you look back through Fight for Endworld, none of this is immediately apparent, and Zeron at one point even claims that he created Zeri's as sort of an imitation of his believed to be deceased half-brother. This was later chalked up to Zeron being delusional and mentally unstable, but the real reason is that the story of Zeri's origin changed several times throughout production, each new explanation making about as much sense as the last. This is because when I started this series back in 2012, I didn't write a script. Most of the story was made up as I went along, with the only clear end goal being the defeat of the Keithrani and Zeri's ascending to a higher level of existence. This left many inconsistencies and plot holes throughout the series, most of which I attempted to retcon with only partial success. If you compare Hearts of Vengeance to the crossover series Legacy of Vengeance, which did have a script, you'll see the difference in how clear the narratives are. The lesson here is don't do what I did. Write a script. It'll save you a lot of headaches later down the road. Number 4. Missing scenes in Episode 8. I read the comments on my videos, and I've gathered that the series finale, Infinity, was generally well received by you guys. But one major criticism I received from several people was that it felt like several parts of the story were missing, almost like I had skipped an episode. That's because there are actually scenes missing from the final episode that I never managed to film and include in the final cut. Though, in my defense, I was on a time crunch and the episode is already over 40 minutes long. One of the scenes I most regret not filming is a scene set in the alternate universe you see in the first 6 minutes of the episode. I meant to show that universe's Zeron being subjected to Damocles' experiments, transforming into Cyborg Zeri's, losing what little sanity he had left, killing Damocles, Andreas, and Beta Zero, then scavenging Andreas and Beta Zero's bodies for technology to add to his body. Another scene I had planned was a conversation between Zarek and Ultimate Zeri's, aka the Phantom Keithrani, where the Phantom Keithrani reveal that there have been dozens of other demon warriors before Zeri's, all of which had ultimately been deemed failures, and that they had only created these demon warriors at Cryos' insistence. This would have explained why there were wraths that were hundreds or even thousands of years older than Zeri's, as well as make it evident that Cryos had always been planning on creating a new Vestal to aid him against Beckham by giving mortals godlike abilities and seeing if they could adapt to them and see past their existence in linear time. Number 3. The meaning of the ending. The ending of Episode 8 is special because by acknowledging that the main storyline you see in the series is only one of many different universes and possible timelines, it means any spin-off series and non-canon series based off of Hearts of Vengeance could be considered canon. This includes Legacy of Vengeance, so while those versions of my characters never technically appear in the main story, you could argue that it is still canon as it takes place in the multiverse I have established. The 3 clips you see playing as Cosmic Xeres explains this reinforces this idea. You're literally seeing different possible endings to the same story. But perhaps the most interesting out of these brief clips is this one, played right at the very end of the episode. What's so special about it, you may ask? Well, it's special because Xeres, Drazen, and Zarek never appear together once throughout the entire series. Think about that. My 3 most popular characters have never actually been in the same place at the same time. Though they have appeared on screen together a handful of times in mock reviews or other one-off videos I did for fun, they never once interact with each other or share dialogue. I actually never realized this myself until I was done filming the episode and I was like, holy shit, this is my last chance to fix this. Number 2. My characters are not overpowered. Okay. Hear me out on this one. Yes, I know that my series is often compared to anime, especially Dragon Ball Z, but that's not entirely accurate. Out of all the characters I have ever introduced, only 7 are explicitly stated to be capable of destroying a planet. And of those 7, 3 are Vestals. Most of my characters aren't unstoppable, unkillable monsters, it just seems that way because many of the fights in my series are horribly unfair. For example, Devasorak, who is one of the primary antagonists for most of the series, is about as powerful as Krillin. Yeah, this guy is as strong, if not stronger than this guy. But if you put Devasorak against guys like ZIS agents, who aren't any stronger or more durable than normal humans, of course it's going to look like they're up against impossible odds. To quote Frieza, it's like ants fighting a dinosaur. He was overpowered in the context of that specific fight, but if you compare him to similar characters, you'll find that he's not as strong as you might have made him out to be. Number 1. The origins of my series. Now, here's a few facts that you definitely didn't know about my series. First of all, it started way back in March of 2012, about 7 months before I got my YouTube channel. Several of my characters got their start back there, including Andreas, Drazen, and Devasorak. It was originally going to be called Fight for Endverse, and would have taken place on a galactic scale. In this series, Xeres would have been the primary antagonist, along with several Wraths, and Andreas would have been the main character trying to outmaneuver villains who were far more powerful than him. I eventually revamped the story and made Xeres more of an anti-hero type character and introduced Zarek as the main antagonist, as sort of the reversal of the traditional Biotube series formula, which in hindsight was probably one of the best choices I ever made. I'd never really seen a villain in a Biotube series that had to rely on skill and intellect rather than sheer strength or hordes of minions to beat the good guys before, which is why I think Zarek worked so well as a character. More often than not, he's outnumbered and outgunned, often at a disadvantage, yet he always feels like the biggest threat in any given scene he's in. But another interesting fact is that some of the characters in Fight for Endworld date back even further. Xeres was originally built back in September of 2011. He was a lot smaller and less complex than the Xeres you know today, though he did have the same color scheme. In 2012, I revamped him to have a trans orange and black color scheme as well as a cybernetic arm, but I later decided to return him to his original color scheme for Fight for Endworld. Another mock from around this time whose name I forgot served as the basis for Cretius, though he had a different head. I believe it was a Paraka skull. Aside from the head, his body remained relatively unchanged over the years. However, the oldest Mach that appears in the series is Cryos. He was originally built way back in July of 2011, and looked significantly different from the modern version, being slightly smaller and having a white color scheme. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any pictures of him. I also started making stop motions back in 2011, and found that I had a natural talent for it, eventually starting the series back in September of 2012 and starting my YouTube channel after I had finished filming the first 3 episodes of Fight for Endworld. The rest, of course, is history. I'll officially be saying goodbye in a few days, so stick around. I'd like to thank you guys for watching and staying with me for the past 5 years.